Yes. So we have already worked out example 7.14. So finally we have one last topic of this chapter, that is energy diagrams. Okay, that is 7.5, energy diagrams. Energy diagrams. Okay, so what will happen now? You have to just, what is this energy diagram? Okay, so lot of ideas you can get from an energy diagram. Energy diagram means you have to take energy along the y-axis and the potential and the position along the x-axis, and then you can get, um, suppose we will discuss one, uh, just wait. Okay, so at least we'll do one discussion, just wait. Okay, so what I will be doing, you must have done the experiment also. So I will take, let us take the vibration of a simple pendulum. Okay, so the x or the position is taken along the horizontal axis, and the potential energy is taken along the vertical axis. And for simplicity, we are doing it for one dimension. Okay, then you will find out that the potential energy, there will be two extreme positions. Suppose you are discussing about a pendulum, then there will be two extreme positions, and those extreme positions are known as amplitude. This is minus a and this is plus a. Okay, and this is the mean position 0. Okay, now you will see that this you can also work out for a gravitational. Now you see, at the extreme position you have total potential energy, isn't it? And at the mean position you don't have potential energy, the potential energy is 0. So you will get a curve like this, isn't it? This is the potential energy curve I am drawing. Okay, this is the potential energy curve. Okay, and you will see the kinetic energy, and this is also, because this will be your total energy is potential. So here you can, your kinetic energy is 0 at the extreme position. This is E k plus u, and your k is 0 here. So this actually gives you the value of k, the difference, isn't it? Here you see, look at this graph. This is the kinetic energy is this much here, isn't it, at the mean position, and gradually the kinetic energy decreases. Suppose we will take this point. So what is the potential energy? The potential energy is this much, and the kinetic energy is this much. This will be the kinetic energy. Are you able to understand? So at this point, at the mean position, your potential energy is 0, so the total energy is kinetic. At this position, this small line is your potential energy, this one up to this value, and this rest value is kinetic energy. Suppose I will take this point, isn't it? So what will be the kinetic energy? This kinetic energy will be this one, this height, and your potential energy will be this height. Okay, so this is how this energy diagram will give you lot of ideas about the kinetic energy and the potential energy. So when a particle moves along a straight line under the action of a conservative force, we can get a lot of insight into its possible motions by looking at the graph of the potential energy function ux. Now this figure that I have drawn shows a glider with a mass m that moves along the x-axis on an air track. The spring exerts on the glider a force with x component fx is equal to minus kx. Suppose there is a air track, you have got a spring like this, and you have attached a glider like this. So what will happen? The glider will move like this, isn't it? So this motion is a vibration, simple harmonic motion. That means there is a mean position, it goes to one extreme, it comes back to the mean position, goes to the other extreme, comes back to the mean position, and if there is no friction, then the amplitude is not going to decrease. Okay, it will continue infinite for infinite time. Okay, well, but for practical purposes, the amplitude gradually dies down. But we have taken an ideal situation where the friction is zero. Okay, so this the force is minus kx and the potential energy is half kx square, which is a parabolic function. So now if the elastic force of the spring is the only horizontal force acting on the glider, the total mechanical energy E is equal to k plus u, is a constant independent of x, isn't it? So whatever the position of the pendulum may be, always you will have the total energy conserved. Okay, because the only force that is acting is the elastic force. A graph of E as a function of x is thus a straight horizontal line because it doesn't depend upon x. That's why you are getting a straight line, isn't it? This is the straight line of the total energy. Are you able to understand? Are you able to understand what I am telling? Yes. Mihika, Mihika, are you able to understand? Mihika, are you there? So many,
Sir,
Mihika,
yes, sir, present.
you are okay, you are there. So did you understand? You see this energy, the total energy, maybe I think you have done this experiment in the lab also. Now, have you done this experiment? Have you done this experiment in the lab? Yes? Have you done this experiment in the lab or not?
No, sir.
Oh, no. Okay. So let us see. You have got your lab today. I will ask the demonstrator whether this experiment has been done to or not. So anyway, now you have seen that if something is vibrating or if something is oscillating, and the best example is a pendulum. The pendulum has a mean position. You see, if I will take what is a pendulum? There will be a support like this, there will be a support like this, and then there will be a thread, and then there will be a mass. Now you can start oscillating the pendulum in many ways. What is the one way? You can put kinetic energy by slipping this pendulum, isn't it? If you push the pendulum, then you are giving some amount of kinetic energy. Or you can pull the pendulum to one extreme like this, you pull it and then you leave it. Then the pendulum will start oscillating between two extreme positions, and those two extreme positions are known as amplitude. You see, I have shown it as minus a and plus a. This side it is minus a, this amplitude, and this side it is plus a. Now what happens, you see, when the pendulum reaches its extreme position, its kinetic energy is exhausted. So there is no kinetic energy. Kinetic energy becomes a zero. So look at this position, look at this point. Here the total energy is potential energy. All energy is U and K is zero, isn't it? K is zero. Here also the same thing. Okay, so at the extreme positions, you have only potential energy and kinetic energy is zero. And at the mean position, at this mean position, you have the entire energy is kinetic and the potential energy is zero. And for all other intermediary positions from 0 to A or 0 to minus A, the pendulum has different amount of kinetic energy and different amount of potential energy, but the sum of the kinetic energy and the potential energy is a constant. That's why you are getting a straight line. This straight line is the graph of the total energy, K plus U. Okay, this curve is the graph of the potential energy. Okay, so this is what is called an energy diagram. So we use the term energy diagram for a graph like this which shows both the potential energy function ux and the energy of the particle subjected to the force that corresponds to ux. Okay, because what is the force that corresponds to this type of potential energy? That is F is equal to minus kx, isn't it? F is equal to minus kx, your spring force or the elastic force. What are other informations that we are going to get from the energy diagram? Let us see. The vertical distance between the u and e graphs at each point represents the difference E minus u, isn't it? This is E, and at any point you see this is the E, this one, this straight line. This straight line is your E, and any point if you take, then the difference is your kinetic energy E minus u, because that is the value of u. Here this point has the value of u, this is E. So this difference, this is the difference, this straight line that I have drawn, this is the difference, and this difference is known as E minus u, isn't it? This difference is E minus u, and that is equal to k. So at any point of the potential energy function, if you take the difference between that point and the E graph, E straight line, then you will get the kinetic energy. So the vertical distance between the U and E graphs at each point represents the difference E minus U, which is equal to the kinetic energy K at that point. We see that K is greatest at x is equal to 0, which we have already discussed, because here the potential energy is 0. So all the energy is kinetic. It is 0 at the values of x where the two graphs cross, okay, labeled A and minus A in the diagram, isn't it? You see this graph, this potential energy graph, cross the energy graph here at this point, one point, and at this point, another point. Now this graph, this curved graph, that is the potential energy graph, is bounded by these two values, It cannot go up. Why it cannot go up? Anybody who can say me why it cannot go up? This graph has to terminate. This potential energy curve has to terminate at these 2 points. It cannot go up. I cannot draw the graph like this. I cannot take the graph like this. It is not possible. Why? Why this is not possible? Why it is not possible? Anybody?
Because total energy is conserved.
So what happens? So what happens? So what is the problem? Is the conservation violated? Is the conservation rule violated?
Yes, sir.
How?
Sir, kinetic energy and potential energy, other than that energy will, if there is present, then it should be under that energy line, below that. But if it will be above that, it is violated.
Now suppose I will say that, suppose this graph, let us say I am giving you a figure. You say how it is not going to be violated. Suppose I say, suppose the potential energy reaches at this point, and energy, let us assume the total energy is 10. Okay, and now the potential energy is 12, but I have to make 10, I have to make k plus u 10, but already u is 12. So how can I make 12 plus something is going to be 10? I will add minus 2. So again I will get 10, and that is how the law of conservation is not violated. This is how I will argue. How you are going to counter me? Are you able to understand? Suppose the total energy is 10, and I have to make k plus u is equal to 10. But already I have got a higher value for u, because now it has shoot this straight line and it has gone up to a bigger value. Suppose that is 12, but I have to make this sum 10. Otherwise, my law is going to be violated. So I have to add minus 2 and I will make it 10. So where is the mistake? Where is the error? Yes? Swamjyoti?
Yes, sir.
Where is the error? Now my conservation law is not violated. My
Sir, if you will
conservation.
assume, sir, if you
Hmm?
will assume that some object is falling in a free fall and it hits the ground, and
No, no,
the
no. For the time being, you forget about the graph. That we will come later on. Now you see, when the potential energy curve, instead of being bounded by these 2 points, that minus A and plus A, where they cross the total energy, suppose these two, on both the sides, this graph crosses that line and goes up. So now it will have a bigger value than the total energy. Total energy is 10. Now your potential energy is 12, but it has to be 10. So I have to add something to make it 10, and I add minus 2. So 12 minus 2 is 10, and my law is restored. My law is not violated. So what is the problem?
The kinetic energy cannot be negative, sir.
Yes, that is very important. The kinetic energy cannot be negative because the minus 2 that I am adding to it is not possible, because kinetic energy has a square term, half mv square. So how can I get a negative value for a square term? And that has to be real also. I am not dealing with any complex quantities or imaginary quantities. So if this exceeds, then the kinetic energy is going to be negative. Or if I want to stick to a positive kinetic energy, then the law of conservation of energy will be violated. So in both the cases, this is not possible. That's why this curve, this graph cannot exceeds after crossing this. So the last point is that it has to cross and stay there. It cannot go up. Okay. So that is one part. And where it crosses, that also defines your amplitude. You can find out that wherever it crosses, just measuring the distance from this point to the other point, you can measure this distance and you can find out the value of the amplitude. So you understand now, you focus how so many informations can be obtained from a energy diagram. You can know the value of the amplitude if you have a scale, and if you know that the graph has crossed at this point, you can measure this distance and can find out the amplitude or the maximum displacement of the oscillating body from the mean position. Okay, so the speed v, and as you have seen, at x is equal to 0, you have got the highest kinetic energy, so maximum speed. So if I'll ask you a question, in the entire graph, where is the pendulum or the oscillating body has the maximum velocity, then you have to say it at x is equal to 0. When the body has maximum velocity, what is the force acting on the body? You see how paradoxical life is. Now suppose I will ask you a question. What is the force acting on the body when the body has the highest velocity, highest speed, isn't it? Yes? Can you say? Asutos?
Yes, zero.
Anybody? All others are sitting silently.
So derivative of kinetic energy.
No, not so much big things. So maybe we can find out the derivative of the kinetic energy. What will be the derivative of the kinetic energy? Can you say?
Minus kx. Kx.
But what will be that value? That will be 0.
Okay.
Because at the equilibrium position, x is equal to 0. So you see how strange is life. Your body is having the highest speed, isn't it? But the force acting on the body is 0. But why the body is not coming to rest at the mean position?
due to inertia.
Due to inertia. Good. That's right. Because now the body has the highest inertia of motion, and the body cannot come back to cannot come abruptly to a stop, though the force acting on the body is 0. But the moment, so due to inertia, again the body tries to overshoot the equilibrium position. Overshoot means it will cross the mean position and goes to the other direction. And once it is displaced from the mean position, now your restoring force starts acting, that minus kx, and it will try to pull the body in the opposite direction. Thereby, the direction of force and the direction of velocity are in the same direction or in the opposite direction? Yes.
So can you repeat the question, sir?
Sir, repeat the question, please.
When you see, let us go to the figure. You see, when the pendulum is at this extreme position, the force was acting and the force was maximum. Why the force was maximum? What is the force here at this point? The force is Ka minus Ka. The force is minus Ka. You see, this force is minus K. What is its magnitude? Ka, maximum. So the maximum amount of force is acting on the body when its velocity is 0. So you see, at the extreme position, the velocity is 0, but the force acting on the body is maximum. So this maximum force is trying to pull the body. So now what will happen? The direction of force and the direction of velocity are in the same direction. So there will be acceleration and the speed will increase. So from 0 speed, the speed will go on increasing, but the force is decreasing. That you must understand. The force is decreasing. So, and when it reaches this position, the force becomes a 0, but the force has done its duty. The force has given the body maximum possible speed, isn't it? And due to that maximum possible speed, the body doesn't come to a stop at the equilibrium or the mean position. It again overshoots this position and it moves in this direction. But immediately the force starts acting and the force acts in the opposite direction. So my question was, the force and the direction of velocity, are they in the same direction or in opposite direction?
Opposite direction.
Opposite direction.
Opposite, sir.
Direction. Opposite direction. So the speed will decrease. So with the body starts starts its journey from the main position towards the other extreme with the highest possible speed, but gradually the speed goes on decreasing and the force goes on increasing. That you understand. The elastic force goes on increasing, the velocity or the speed goes on decreasing, and the moment it reaches the extreme position, the speed is 0, but the force is maximum. Again, that force will try to pull it back, and now the direction of the velocity and the direction of force will be in the same direction. So from 0, the speed will again increase. When it reaches this value, the speed becomes maximum, and this would continue indefinitely. Okay, but that doesn't actually happen. That is due to friction. But there is theoretically in physics, there is nothing which will not allow this to happen indefinitely. Okay, so if you can minimize the friction and everything to 0, now this process will continue to happen till for infinite time to come. So that is what is this thing is telling. Okay, so you see force maximum here, force minimum here, that means 0, speed maximum here, speed 0 here. So like this, all kinds of information you will get here. The potential energy U can never be greater than the total energy E, that we have already discussed. If it were, K would be negative, and that is impossible. That also we have discussed. The motion is a back and forth oscillation between the points x is equal to A and x is equal to minus A. Why it is going to be a back and forth oscillations, that I have told you. What are the two important agencies, or what are the two important characteristic features or parameters who are responsible to give a back and forth motion to this type of oscillations? Can anybody say? What are those two important things? Which two important properties are there? That's why the body cannot go, cannot exceeds A, cannot exceeds minus A. So it is subjected to within minus A, 2 plus A. It is, if you take a watch glass means a kind of glass, isn't it? Watch glass. And if you leave a marble, then the marble will also try this type of oscillations, isn't it? A simple harmonic oscillations. So now my point is that my question, what was my question was, what are those two properties due to which this type of back and forth motion is possible? Yes, anybody, can you say? Yes.
Sir, first one,
Hmm?
inertia.
Inertia, that is right. And the other property? And what is the other property?
Restoring force.
Elasticity. One is, if there won't have been elasticity in this world, then you cannot have a back and forth motion. If there wouldn't have been inertia, then you cannot have a back and forth motion. So you should be grateful to two important properties of nature. One is elasticity and the other is inertia. So basically the entire problem can be broken up into two properties. One is elasticity and the other is inertia. Inertia doesn't try to bring back the object to the mean position, and both of them are contradictory in nature. That is also another beauty of all kinds of knowledge. If you look at the universe, there are always contradictory things, but because they are contradictory, because they are opposing each other, so they are in balance, and lot of interesting things are happening. Elasticity is trying to bring back to the body to the original condition, to the original position, to the equilibrium position, or to the mean position. And elasticity is trying to, and inertia is trying to take the body away from the main position. Okay. So this is how, under the influence of these two contradictory properties, your body is performing a back and forth motion. Okay. So all these informations you get from this energy diagram. At each point, have I, oh, sorry, I have unknowingly removed the graph. Anyway, we can discuss few more points and then we'll go to the assignment questions. Okay, unwittingly, this was the energy diagram. This is the total energy, and this graph is like this. Okay. Is anybody telling anything? Hello? So this is minus A and this one is plus A. Okay. And this is in the horizontal axis, I have plotted position. Along the vertical axis, I have plotted potential energy function. And this red line is your energy, which is nothing but sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. Sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. And this is x is equal to 0. Okay. And the difference at any point, as you see, suppose this is the value of the potential energy, and this difference will give you the value of E minus U. E minus U, which is nothing but K, isn't it? So this point is the value of U. This gives you the value of U, and this difference gives you the value of K. Okay. So this we have discussed. At each point, the force Fx on the glider is equal to the negative of the slope of the ux curve. Yes. Why? Suppose you want to find out the slope. Let us say, what does it imply? Suppose at this point, I want to find out this slope. So how I am going to find out this slope? The tangent. So I will take the tangent. Now what is the tangent? The tangent will be, suppose I will take how I will find it out? Suppose I will take one point here, another point here, isn't it? And then I will find out the difference like this, and this difference, then this will be delta U and this will be delta X. So I will find out delta U divided by delta X. Okay, delta U by delta X. Then I will take limit delta T tends to 0. Limit delta T tends to 0. All these kinds of things we have extensively discussed. Then this will become the slope, because slope is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, so this becomes your du by dx. But if you want to find out the force, then you have to take the negative slope, negative of the slope at that point. So that is another information. Suppose I ask you to find out the force acting at this point. So what you will do, you will take the potential energy function, as one of your friend was telling, probably Sibun was telling the same kind of thing. So you have to take the potential energy function, differentiate with respect to x, and then take a negative sign. Then you will find out the force, because we have already discussed that Fx is equal to minus du by dx, isn't it? Force is equal to minus du by dx. So your energy diagram will also give you the force. How you will get the force? Take the energy, take the potential energy function, differentiate with respect to x, and add a negative sign. So you will find out the force. When the particle is at x is equal to 0, the slope and the force are 0, because now what is the slope? The slope is a horizontal line. What is the angle the horizontal line makes with itself? 0 degree. So tan 0 is equal to 0. So your slope is 0. So your force is 0. So are you able to see how nicely even the mathematics is also telling the same kind of conclusion? So at each point the force Fx and the glider is equal to the negative of the slope of the ux curve. Fx is equal to minus du by dx, which we have discussed. When the particle is at the equilibrium position x is equal to 0, the slope is 0, and thus the force is also 0. So this is an equilibrium position. That's why it is called an equilibrium position. When x is positive, when x, that means you are moving in the right hand side, at that time x is positive, the slope of the ux curve is positive. How you know the slope is positive? Because this straight line, this line is inclined towards the right hand side. You see, if you take a vertical like this, okay, and if the line is inclined towards the right hand side like these are the lines, then the slope is positive, isn't it? And if the lines are inclined towards the left like this, then the slope is negative. So that is what it is telling. So when x is positive, the slope of the ux curve is positive and the force Fx is negative. Because the slope is positive and you have taken a minus sign before that, that's why your slope is your force is negative. But when x is negative, you see, when x is negative, the slope is negative, and again you are taking a negative sign, because f, okay, isn't it, minus du by dx you are finding. Du by dx itself is negative, and you are taking a negative sign, so negative becomes positive, so your force is positive. So, and that is what actually happens, because when the pendulum moves towards the negative x direction, your restoring force acts along this direction. When your pendulum is moving in this direction, your restoring force acts in this direction. So when the pendulum is moving in this side, the restoring force is in the negative x direction. When the pendulum is moving in the negative x direction, the restoring force is moving in the positive x direction. Okay, that means the force will always act towards the equilibrium position. That is what actually I have told you, because the elasticity has the tendency to bring back the body to its equilibrium position. So when x is negative, the slope is negative, and Fx is positive, and again directed towards the origin. Such a force is called a restoring force. When the glider is displaced to either side of x is equal to 0, the force tends to restore it back to x is equal to 0. That's why it is known as a restoring force, because it tries to bring back the displaced body to its relaxed position, to its equilibrium position. We say that x is equal to 0 is a point of stable equilibrium. More generally, any minimum in a potential energy curve is a stable equilibrium position. Did you understand what I mean by this statement? What did you understand when I say that any minimum in a potential energy curve is a stable equilibrium position? What do you mean by that? Have you got any idea what I am telling? You are just silently listening to a story, isn't it? So when I am telling that, suppose there are many curves in a potential energy function like this. Okay, suppose a potential energy function looks like this. So this is one minimum, this is another minimum, this is another minimum. So the statement is telling that any minimum in a potential energy curve is a stable equilibrium position. So this can be a stable equilibrium position. This can be a stable equilibrium. This can be stable. If you leave some object like this, then the object will make an oscillations and finally it will settle here. Similarly, if you take a if an object can oscillate and it will settle here, it will settle here. But you see, these points are not points of stable equilibrium. Are you able to understand? So the minimum. So what is stable equilibrium? Stable equilibrium is a point of minimum potential energy. That means a body always wants to be in the lowest potential energy possible. Okay, that's where when you leave an object from a height, the object has a higher potential energy. So naturally the object is seeking points of low potential energy, and that's why it falls down. But when you have kept an object at the ground level, nobody has seen the object of its own gaining height. Have you seen it? आपने देखा कभी? Have you, if you kept something, if you keep something on your table, can it go to the fan and sit on the fan? No. But if you keep something on the fan and if you remove that support, then of its, because the object is always looking for points of minimum potential energy. Because at the minimum points it will get a consolation, उनको सुकून मिलेगा. It will be very happy to be at a point of minimum potential energy. So what is the point of stable equilibrium? What is the point of stable equilibrium? What is the point of
A
stable
point where minimum potential energy is there.
Yes. So stable equilibrium is a position or is a point of minimum potential energy. Okay. Again, we will go back. Again, we will carry forward our discussion. So this is actually the whole soul of the entire chapter, isn't it? That's why I am taking little amount of more time in the analysis of this energy diagram. Now, also, if you look at this diagram, it shows a hypothetical but more general potential energy function. Okay. Another kind of this figure that I suppose I will call, this is also a potential energy. Well, let us say, suppose this is also a potential energy curve, a hypothetical, may not be real, but a hypothetical curve like this. So what does it indicate? Let us see. So this figure shows the corresponding force Fx is equal to minus du by dx. Okay. Points x1 and x3 are stable equilibrium positions, isn't it? These are stable equilibrium positions, x1 and x3. There are some probably three, I think. So I can call it x1, x2, x3. Okay, these are points of stable equilibrium because the potential energy is less. At each of these points, Fx is 0 because the slope of the ux curve is 0 naturally, because the slope will be 0 here. It is horizontal. It is parallel to the horizontal axis. When the particle is displaced to either side, the force pushes back towards the equilibrium point, which I have already shown. If you displace it little amount from the mean position, naturally the restoring force will try to bring it back. That means the point, because it is in stable equilibrium, so an ordinary displacement is not going to worry the object. The object will try to come back to its stable equilibrium position. The slope of the ux curve is also 0 at points x2 and x4. Here also you see these are two important points, not x2, we'll call it as x4 and we'll call it x5, isn't it? Now you see here also the slope is 0. Here also the slope is 0. Okay. When the particle is displaced to, okay, so the slope of the ux curve is also 0 at points x4 and x5, and these are also equilibrium points. But when the particle is displaced a little to the right of either point, that means either to this way or to this way, either to this way or that way, do you think that particle will come back to its original position? Do you think how interesting is nature? You will be surprised to find that restoring force is there, everything is there, and you are displacing it from the mean position. But do you think that it will come back to its mean position, to its equilibrium, to its position, to this position? Do you think? Anybody? Do you think it will come back, or it will go farther and farther away?
farther and farther away.
Yes, farther and farther away, and that is become the position of unstable equilibrium that we will talk just now. But when the particle is displaced a little to the right of either point, the slope of the ux curve becomes negative, corresponding to a positive effect that tends to push the particle still farther from the point. When the particle is displaced a little to the left, fx is negative, again pushing away from equilibrium. So in both the cases, you have seen that this fx, instead of bringing it back to the original position, it will take it further and further from that position, isn't it? This is analogous to a marble rolling on the top of a bowling ball, isn't it? If you hot a bowl like this and put a marble here, and if you displace it slightly, then the marble either it will fall down here or this way, but it will not come back to its position, isn't it? So the situation is like that. And that's why points x4 and x5 are called unstable equilibrium points. These are called stable equilibrium points, and these are called unstable equilibrium points. So what is the definition of unstable equilibrium point? Any maximum in a potential energy curve is an unstable equilibrium position. So you see here the potential energy is very high, isn't it? But here the potential energy is less. So if you want to be stable, then you must have a less potential energy. If you want to be unstable, then you must choose for a higher potential energy. So maximum potential energy in a potential energy curve signifies or represent points of unstable equilibrium, and minimum potential energy represent points of stable equilibrium. So I think we have discussed many things. If you look at the book, you can also find out a lot of interesting things also. So with this, we have got another 15 minutes. So let me tell you. So let us do a summary of whatever I have told you, and then probably another 10 minutes I will give you the assignment exercises, and from the next class we will go to chapter 8. Okay. So what are the things that we have learned in this class? Can anybody summarize it within 2-3 minutes? Yes. This is how you have to learn physics. You should not be very serious about many things. Okay. And you should not look at books or notebooks. So don't just from your memory, whatever you have learned, just tell me 1 or 2 lines, so that yes, and there must be a logic to it. So that is very important. Yes, can anybody start from where we have started? I think we have covered almost many things, I think. Let us see what is the yes. Yes, I have covered almost everything. Yes. Now, yes, can you say? So, anybody? Just present me whatever you have learned, major equations or major concepts. What did you learn in this? Can you just put it into 1 minute, 2 sentences? Anybody? Mihika, can you do that?
Yes, sir. From the starting.
Yes. So where from we start? What did we
Sir,
learn?
from the starting of the chapter.
Yes. What did we learn in this chapter? Yes.
From sir today's lesson, or from law of conservation of energy?
First we learn the most important thing is that
Sir, from today's lesson or from
the work done by a gravitational force is not equal to change in potential energy, but it is equal to negative change in potential energy. That is the most important thing you have learned in this chapter. Work done by a gravitational force is not equal to change in gravitational potential energy, but equal to minus negative change in potential energy. If it would have been plus change in potential energy, then entire physics would have been destroyed. No question of energy conservation, nothing else. Because your kinetic energy and potential energy are interconvertible. Because you see in chapter 6, the work done is positive, change in kinetic energy. W total is equal to delta K, but W grave is not equal to delta U, but it is equal to minus delta U grave. Similarly, the work done by another force, elastic force, is also equal to negative change in elastic potential energy. Why we are considering two forces? If both the forces are behaving in the same way, because just to show you that whether the force is constant or whether the force is variable, the gravitational force work done is also equal to negative change in potential energy, and the elastic force work done by the elastic force is also equal to negative change in elastic potential energy. The gravitational force is a constant force, elastic force is a variable force. Okay, that is important thing. Once you learn that is 90%, then automatically delta K is equal to minus delta U, then delta K plus delta U is equal to 0, then delta K plus U is equal to 0. K plus U is nothing but it is the total energy E, so delta E is equal to 0. Delta E is nothing but E2 minus U1 is equal to 0, or E2 is equal to U1. What is E2? That is K2 plus U2. What is U1? That is K1 plus U1. So the sum total of potential energy and kinetic energy is a conserved quantity, is a constant quantity, so long there are forces like gravitational forces and elastic forces. What will happen when other forces are also present? When other forces are also present, then you should not worry. That doesn't imply that your law of conservation of energy is violated. But only thing you have to write is that delta E is now equal to W other. Now, if your W other is equal to 0, then E1 is equal to E2. If W other is greater than 0, then E2 is greater than E1. If W other is less than 0, then E2 is less than E1. Okay, so that is what you have seen. Once you learn this thing, then naturally there is another question. What is the relationship? Why this gravitational force is associated with a potential energy function? Why this elastic force is also associated with a potential energy function? Are they different from other forces? Yes, they are different from other forces. They are known as conservative forces. What are the properties of conservative forces then? One of the important properties of a conservative force is that it can be expressed, it can be associated always with a potential energy function. That's why the work done by a conservative force is equal to difference of two values or two numbers. What is that numbers? Because W grave is equal to mgy1 minus mgy2. Mgy1 is a number, mgy2 is another number. So mgy1 minus mgy2 is difference in two numbers, and that can only be written if the force is conservative. So if you are dealing with conservative force, then work done by a conservative force can always be expressed as difference of two numbers. Because it is expressed as difference of two numbers, it is path independent. It doesn't depend upon the path, so long the endpoints are constant or endpoints are same. When you drop an object, either by giving horizontal velocity or zero horizontal velocity, so long the points from which you are dropping and the point where it is going to touch the ground are same, the potential, the work done will be same. So it is path independent. And the third is it is reversible. The kinetic energy can be converted to potential energy, and potential energy can always be converted to kinetic energy. And this cycle of conversion goes on. And the fourth is when the two endpoints are same, which happens in a cyclic case. That means you start from somewhere and after traveling lot of idhar-udhar, again if you come back to the same position, then the total work done will be zero. So these are the properties. So when you are dealing with conservative forces, you will see that you are encountering these properties, and mathematically fx is equal to fy is equal to minus mg and u is equal to mgy are related. because if you find out du by dy, you will get mg. So minus du by dy is equal to minus mg. So what does that indicate? The negative change, the negative derivative of potential energy with respect to that position is equal to the force, isn't it? Similarly, fx is equal to minus kx, ux is equal to half kx square. If you take a derivative du by dx, you will get kx. Put a negative, you will get minus kx. And in 3 dimension, this can be expressed by using a delta operator or a Nebula operator. That is an inverted triangle, vector triangle, isn't it? Minus del u is equal to f, isn't it? Vector f. And then energy diagram finally. So in the energy diagram, we can get lot of informations at each point. Because what is an energy diagram? Energy diagram is a graphical representation of the potential energy versus position. What does it give? It gives the value of the potential energy at each point. It also gives the value of kinetic energy at each point. It shows that the total at the equilibrium position, the entire energy is kinetic. It shows that at the 2 extreme positions, the whole energy is potential. The potential energy curve cannot exceed the 2 extreme the points where it crosses the total energy graph, which is a straight line parallel to the horizontal axis, because it is independent of position. Ux is not independent of position. K is not independent of position, but capital E is independent of position. That you must understand. And it cannot, this potential energy curve cannot crosses the energy line and goes up, because then the kinetic energy will become negative, and that is not possible. So at each point, the derivative, the negative derivative gives the restoring force. At x is equal to 0, force is 0. At 2 extreme positions, force is maximum. And then we define stable equilibrium and unstable equilibrium. In a potential energy curve, the minimum, the points of minimum potential energy are points of stable equilibrium, and the points of maximum potential energy are points of unstable equilibrium. So and then we have worked out 2 examples. One, that POC example, where we find out the force when the potential energy function is given, and that glider where the mass is given, the glider, the spring is displaced by 0.1 meter. Then while returning back at 0.08 meter, what will be the velocity? That we apply the conservation of energy, and we found out the value. So I think I have covered the entire thing, and this is how you have to read physics. Don't be very serious and don't look either udhar and many books and all these things. Just whatever little amount of understanding happens, you have to go by that, isn't it? So I hope now I will say you about the what one assignment exercises. Okay, and let me write another exercise. You can take a screenshot also. Just wait, I will bring it to one page, so that will be better. Okay, and okay, now you will be able to see the assignment exercises. This 7.14. Then I will write 7.27. So let me write. We have got some 5 minutes. So let us see how far I am able to write it. And then we have got another number, 7.27. A 10 kg box is pulled. A 10 kg box is pulled by a horizontal wire, in a circle on a rough horizontal surface, on a rough horizontal surface, for which the coefficient of kinetic friction, is 0.250, Now calculate the work done by friction. Calculate the work done by friction during one complete circular trip. During one complete circular trip, if the radius is, then there are few bits, I think. Bit A 2 meter and bit B 4 meter, and then there is another bit C. On the basis of the results, results, you just obtained, would you say that friction is a conservative, or non-conservative force? Isn't it? 7.44 is on a horizontal surface, a crate with mass 50 kg, is placed against a spring that stores 360 joule of energy. I think I should stop here. There are 2-3 lines, but I have got my time out. Maybe you have got another class. So I think you can take a screenshot of these 2 questions, and the third questions I will give you in the next class, and then we will go to chapter 8. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. So have you taken a screenshot?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I am stopping it here. Okay. So we'll meet in the next class.